I've never been particularly fond of school lockdown drills. They always gave me an eerie feeling, like something was lurking in the shadows, waiting to pounce on the unsuspecting. But little did I know that my intuition would soon prove to be terrifyingly accurate. It was a chilly autumn afternoon when it happened. I was sitting in my history class at Hollowbrook High, trying to stay focused on the lesson, but my mind kept drifting off to the upcoming weekend plans. Suddenly, the loudspeakers crackled to life, and the principal's voice boomed through the school. "Attention all students and staff, this is not a drill. We are initiating a lockdown. Repeat, this is not a drill." Fear gripped the classroom, and everyone rushed to lock the doors and hide. Our teacher turned off the lights, and we huddled together in the corner, hearts pounding in our chests. Outside, the once vibrant school turned into an eerie, haunting silence. The wind whispered through the windows and the trees cast elongated shadows on the walls. I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread, as if something malevolent had descended upon Hollowbrook High. Minutes dragged like hours, and the silence was broken only by the occasional whisper or stifled sob. Nobody knew what was happening, and the lack of information only fueled our fear. I noticed strange things happening around me. The shadows seemed to move, slithering across the walls like living entities. The air felt heavy and suffocating, and cold shivers ran down my spine. Was it my imagination playing tricks on me, or was there something sinister at play? As the lockdown wore on, rumors started circulating among the students. Some claimed they heard eerie laughter echoing through the hallways, while others swore they saw flickering lights and apparitions in the distance. Fear began to manifest itself in different ways, and some students broke down entirely, their sanity slipping through their fingers. I clung to the hope that this was all a misunderstanding, that someone had pulled a cruel prank. But deep down, I knew there was something more. Something dark and malevolent lurking within the school's walls. Desperate to find answers, I decided to venture out of the classroom, against my better judgment. I sneaked through the dimly lit hallways, trying to make sense of the chaos. As I moved, the creaking floorboards beneath my feet seemed to carry haunting whispers, urging me to turn back. As I approached the school's old library, a chill washed over me. The door was slightly ajar, and the room inside was dimly lit by a flickering light. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but I couldn't resist the urge to investigate further. The library was in disarray, books strewn across the floor and shattered glass everywhere. I spotted an old diary lying amidst the debris. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked it up, dusting off the cover. The diary belonged to a former student who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances decades ago. The entries spoke of a malevolent presence haunting the school, a malevolent entity that fed on fear and despair. The student had attempted to investigate the haunting, but the entries grew increasingly incoherent and delirious as the sinister presence seemed to take hold of them. Reading those words, I felt a presence behind me, and a shiver ran down my spine. I turned around slowly, and my heart nearly stopped at what I saw. A shadowy figure, tall and menacing, stood before me, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Fear paralyzed me, and I couldn't move or speak. The figure loomed closer, and its presence seemed to consume the very air around me. It emanated a sense of pure malevolence, and I knew I was facing something beyond comprehension. With great effort, I managed to tear my gaze away from the figure and sprinted back to the classroom. I slammed the door shut, my breaths ragged and terrified. I warned the others of the malevolent presence in the school, but some dismissed it as a hallucination born out of fear. But as the hours passed, the haunting presence began to manifest itself throughout the school. Doors slammed shut on their own, strange symbols appeared on the walls, and chilling laughter echoed through the halls. The atmosphere was thick with dread, and it became evident that this was no ordinary lockdown. As night fell, the darkness outside the windows seemed to engulf the school entirely. The emergency lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. We huddled together, praying for daylight to break the sinister hold on our school. But as the hours stretched into what felt like an eternity, our hope began to wane. The malevolent presence seemed to grow stronger with each passing moment, and the fear in the room was palpable. In a desperate attempt to escape, some students tried to break through the windows, but an unseen force prevented them from doing so. It was as if the school itself was keeping us trapped, at the mercy of the malevolent entity that had taken hold of it. As the night wore on, I noticed some students changing, their eyes glazed over with a haunting emptiness. They began to mutter incoherently, talking about serving the malevolent presence, becoming vessels for its dark desires. I knew I had to find a way to break the hold of the malevolent entity before it consumed us all. Desperation gave me newfound courage, and I decided to confront the haunting directly. Armed with the diary I had found, I made my way to the school's old basement. Legend said that it was the heart of the haunting, the place where the malevolent presence had first taken root. The basement was a labyrinth of darkness, the air heavy with the stench of decay. I followed the symbols from the diary, my heart pounding with every step. The deeper I went, the more the malevolent presence seemed to suffocate me. Finally, I reached a hidden chamber at the heart of the basement. The room was adorned with grotesque symbols, and a sinister energy pulsed through the air. At the center of it all stood an old, ornate mirror. I knew that the malevolent entity resided within the mirror, feeding on the fear and despair of those trapped in the school. With trembling hands, I opened the diary and began reading aloud an incantation that the student had scribbled in a last desperate attempt to banish the haunting. As I spoke the words, the mirror trembled and the room filled with a blinding light. The malevolent presence fought back, its rage evident in the shaking walls and unearthly screams that echoed through the basement. But I pressed on, pouring all my will and determination into banishing the haunting once and for all. The battle seemed to last an eternity, but I refused to back down. In the end, the malevolent entity couldn't withstand the force of the incantation, and with a final, ear-splitting scream, it was banished back into the depths from which it came. The school shook one last time before falling silent. The malevolent presence was gone, leaving behind only the echo of its malevolence. I staggered out of the basement, weak and exhausted, but relieved that the nightmare was finally over. When daylight finally broke, the lockdown was lifted, and the students were allowed to leave the school. We stepped out into the sunlight, forever changed by the horrors we had endured. The legend of the haunting of Hollowbrook High would forever be etched into the school's history, a reminder of the malevolent entity that had once claimed the halls. But as for me, I would never forget the terror I faced that day, the day I confronted a darkness beyond imagination. To this day, I wonder if the malevolent presence truly left, or if it still lurks in the shadows, waiting for another opportunity to feed on fear and despair once more. But one thing is certain, the haunting of Hollowbrook High will never be forgotten, and the horrors we faced that day will haunt us for the rest of our lives. And so, dear reader, beware. If you ever find yourself in the halls of Hollowbrook High, be wary of the shadows, for you never know what malevolent entity might be lurking within. The horrors of that fateful day will forever be etched in my mind, a constant reminder of the malevolent forces that exist in the darkest corners of our world.